Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, March 8th. LA Galaxy entering, I think, the second week of preseason here. No media call scheduled. We'll talk a little bit about that. Get you through a whole bunch of news updates, though. There's a lot to talk about. We have kit updates. We have some roster things that are happening at the U23 camp that we want to talk about. Grand Sur rumors hitting a little bit of a fever pitch, as you will. Some weekly schedules, some preseason schedule broadcast updates, some Pavon updates. There's a bunch of stuff to get to today, and in order to help me do all that is the man himself, Mr. Kevin Baxter. Kev, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, happy anniversary. 1 year anniversary.
What since the last time we were actually at stadiums and doing games and stuff?
The last soccer match played before a live crowd in Southern California 1 year ago today. That's we're recording, March 8th.
It feels it actually doesn't feel like it was that long ago, right? I mean, I'm not crazy to think that there was that. It feels like it was yesterday more than it feels like it was a year ago.
No, to me, it feels like I was 11 years old when it happened. It feels a long time ago. Actually, the last sporting event with a crowd in Southern California was a Kings hockey game, which was played on the 11th. That was the night the NBA ended its season or postponed the rest of its season. And then we woke up on the morning of the 12th. And anyone who lived through that will remember that. Every 30 seconds, some other sports organization was canceling or postponing the rest of its season. We had the NCAA tournament, NHL, baseball stopped spring training, MLS, of course. MLS famously, if you remember, this is where we were with really not knowing what the pandemic was going to do or even what it was. MLS said, we're taking a 1 week pause and we're going to be back in training camp on Friday. On Thursday, they said it's 1 week pause, training camp will resume on Friday. And as we know, we didn't see another soccer match for another 4 months before, almost 4 months before we started again at the MLS back tournament in Orlando.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's a considerable break that ended up happening. I mean, all the uncertainty certainly around the announcement. I remember I did a live show by myself on a Thursday night. Basically, I think that was the day everything got shut down. And was sort of like, I don't know what's going to happen. And, you know, it was just question marks. I mean, listen, I'm really proud of the fact that we ended up being able to do shows throughout the entire, shutdown and then, have sort of returned to quote unquote normal. Although not that normal because I'm still not in the studio. I'm still here. But looking at all that, I sit there and say, that was a pretty crazy time, and I think we have a pretty good documentation of what happened in Major League Soccer during that time. So, one day somebody will make a video about all this stuff, Kevin. They'll talk about Major League Soccer during the pandemic, and maybe they're going to pull a clip of me. Definitely not you, but maybe a clip of me discussing things.
No, I'll be frozen like I am on this webcam here.
No, you're
frozen at time. I'm moving around. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say if you see Kevin dancing on the video series, it's because he's constantly thinking that he's frozen, and so he's like jumping around to make sure that he's not.
It's like those those monitors with the lights where you wave your hand and the lights go on and off.
Yes,
it's one of those things.
That's what it is. Absolutely. Okay, good. I'm glad we got that through. Let's get to some LA Galaxy news. Let's start as we have started basically since February 24th, whenever the LA Galaxy launched the community kit with your community kit update. I feel like I feel like I'm kind of on an island out here, Kevin, in terms of explaining this stuff and being, and being the source to everybody. And that's fine. I'm just, it's just, I don't know why it needs to be me. I'll gladly do it. It's not that. It's just that, at some point, I really would expect that all this stuff gets cleared up and, you guys don't need me to tell you what's going on with all these kits and all the logos and the patches and everything else. I know this is Kevin's favorite part. He's going to take a nap while I discuss kit news again. So you really know how to endear yourself to the listeners. They're super excited about something and you're over there like falling asleep. So good job. Let's get you through.
Is this how the players get their kits, by the way? Because if so, there might be some guys without uniforms for that first game.
Can I tell you that there was one player, I'll talk about it here at the bottom, which is kind of funny, so just that way we sort of understand anything, but I'm going to give you all the stuff from the LA Galaxy. I actually talked to the LA Galaxy, Chris Thomas, today about this. We were on the phone, we had a conversation, we went through all this stuff, so I understand this is as of Monday, sort of, mid-morning-ish on where the LA Galaxy stand on all these things. Okay, so here we go. If you ordered your kit from the MLS store, Kevin, which I know you didn't, but if you did, if you bought your authentic kit from the MLS store, then it should be coming with both a Honey logo and an MLS patch. Ordering from the MLS store is the only way to guarantee that. Okay, I'm just going to tell you straight off the bat, which means that the other ones aren't. No Adidas store, no Nikki's, no other place I have found gives you both the MLS patch and the Honey patch. And by the way, also has one of the better prices on the authentic is from the MLS store, which is about $165, Kevin, instead of about $185 if you're ordering from the Team LA store. So if you want everything, go to mlsstore.com, except you can't because they're sold out, and I've been told that they will update me whenever they get more stock there. This would be the third restocking because he already sold out first restocking. Then they did pre-orders basically for the second restocking, and so now they're into the third restocking, and we don't know when that's going to happen yet. So if you want to guarantee you get those patches, that's the way to do it. If you order from the Galaxy store, yeah, well, that's another thing that is interesting, Kevin. How do you understand? Because this was sort of eye-opening for me today. So I will ask you a question and then have the answer. How do you understand the relationship between the Team LA store and the LA Galaxy in terms of who operates it and who owns it? I know the answer to that question, and Dignity Home Health Sports Park kind of tipped their hand a little bit when they started selling Charger gear out of there, which is a team not owned by AEG. So as you told me earlier, it surprised me. But yes, that store is not owned or run by the Galaxy or by AEG. It's a private company. But my point on the jerseys that the ones that come from MLS, the MLS store, have everything on it. Right. But Honey ordered into a very lucrative for the Galaxy deal to have that shoulder patch, and the Galaxy now are selling shirts without that patch. If I'm Honey, I'm pretty pissed off because these are people going to be wearing that shirt around Southern California without my advertisement that I paid a lot of money for, without that advertisement on the sleeve. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know. Whenever that got launched, a lot of people were like, good, I don't want that on my kit. But it's one of those things that if you want the authentic, and authentic means it's supposed to look like the players. That's what authentic means. It should look like the players' jerseys. They're not player issues. They're still issued. They're still different. There's still a difference in quality there. But knowing that that's what you're paying the authentic for. So if you go and you order from the Team LA store, your kit will not have a Honey logo on it, and it will not have an MLS patch. The only reason you got a Honey logo on it is if you were one of the first 100 people to put in the promo code and get a Honey patch, you got 15% off and the Honey patch. But that 15% off was less than the standard season ticket member discount of 20%, and it was 10% less than the super duper season ticket holder discount of 25%. And I don't know how they decided who got 25% and who got 20%. I have no idea. I just know that there were two separate codes at least that got sent out. Well, you lost me way a long time ago with all those percentages. Yeah, I know. Once we get into the numbers, we lose you, Kevin. But no, basically, so if you order from Team LA store, you're not going to get any patches on it. And if it did come with the Honey logo, it was because you did it. Here's what the LA Galaxy are saying, is basically that that's the way that it's coming, and the people who run it, I think, are Rank and Rally are the store who operates the Team LA store, and I think Rank and Rally is either the parent company of, or Levy is the parent company of Rank and Rally. I don't know which is who and who's in charge there of the upper, but Levy is the people who do all the food in the stadium, right? So there's this like sort of connection between those companies already doing business with AEG, already doing business at the stadium. So you have that connection there. But anyway, Rank and Rally says that they have never had MLS patches, or at least that is what was sort of communicated to me. But we already know that wasn't true. And actually, I questioned that. And there was a question about that. So we're still trying to figure that out 100%. But some people sent me, Kevin, 2019 jerseys that were bought like at the Team LA store in the stadium. You know, the digital, the Night Navy kits that had MLS patches on them. So, I mean, that's a little fuzzy on the math there and trying to figure that out. Here's what the Galaxy are doing, though. They want to try to make that as right as they can. So what they're going to do is they're figuring out a way, and they're finalizing this week. So I got a little early access to this deal, so we don't have everything completely finalized in terms of the details. But the Galaxy are basically going to give fans the chance to take their jerseys, take them to the Team LA store, probably at the stadium whenever that opens back up and whenever people are allowed to go do that. And for a nominal fee, or at least a small fee, let's say, I think anywhere between $1 and $5 is sort of in the small fee. You can get the MLS patch pressed on it, and you'll get the Honey logo pressed on it. That's sort of the plan there. So that's how
there should be no fee. That should be free, by the way.
I don't disagree with you. And one of the reasons I don't disagree with you is that you paid $20 more for a jersey at the Team LA store. And talking with the Galaxy, basically, it's, the MLS store bakes the cost of that into the jersey. Right. And so the MLS store says basically it's more money to have those patches on there, but it's baked into the cost of the jersey. They know they're going to have to heat press those and heat transfer those along with the number set and everything else. That's why there's an increase from the blank jersey to the letter set, and that's all baked into the cost. And apparently the Team LA store doesn't have that cost baked into their thing, even though they're charging $20 more than MLS is. And MLS, I imagine, Kevin, is still making money off jerseys by printing them and doing all that, right? They're probably not losing money.
No, they're not doing it for free. And again, if I were Honey, I'd be a little upset by this whole thing, because I don't care if someone in Illinois bought a jersey from the MLS store and it doesn't have my patch on it. But if there's someone in El Segundo, I want them to have that patch on, because that's who I'm advertising to. Yeah,
you make 100% sense. I understand that, and you're right. And that's one of the reasons I would think that Honey would want that to happen. And maybe something happens there. We'll see. But anyway, that's the plan right now is for that to happen. Here's the other updates I have for you. Two other ones. Season ticket member discounts. If you ordered from the Team LA store, but you didn't get your code until after you ordered, the Galaxy tell me that you can contact the Team LA store with your order number and basically give them the season ticket member code, and they will credit you back that money for the difference in price. So that was one of the things people were complaining about, is that the codes, Kevin, didn't come out until after the jersey launch, until after they were already sold out. A little bit of a late sort of thing that got put on there. So this is the way the Galaxy are fixing that. Basically, you can go back and the Team LA store will still honor that. So that's right. That's how it should be. The final thing that I have, so that way it's not 20 minutes of kit talk and we can actually get on to some other stuff, is the Julian Aragao 22 kits. Julian Aragao did, and this is the general information I'm giving you. Julian Aragao did switch his number very late. And that was one of the things that sort of caused this downstream. There's no excuses there. They're going to fix this. I would love to tell you how you're going to fix it, and they will announce that, and it's coming out in the next couple days. But all I will tell you is that if you ordered a number 22 Julian Aragao kit, you're going to be very happy with the solution that they came up with. And it's what I call a complete solution on that. In terms of, you're going to be taken care of. You will get everything that you need to get on that. The number 2 and the number 22, you're going to be fully taken care of. And the Galaxy got that one right. So just hold on to that one, and I think you'll be fine. But I did get told this little nugget, Kevin, which I think you might find funny. It was a very late switch for Julian Aragao. I was told that Julian Aragao himself actually ordered 30 kits with the number 22 on them. Because he was thinking he was going to be the number 22, and then he switched it over to the number 2. So it was a late switch in terms of everybody sort of saying, oh, he's going to be the number 2, and that's going to happen.
Okay, 2 trivia questions. Who was the last person to wear number 2? Why did Julian Aragao have to wait to get number 2?
Perry Kitchen.
Right, and then the second thing is, when was the last time Julian Aragao wore the number 22 in public?
The last time he wore the number 22 in public was your news story that you wrote on. Was he wearing the 22?
The Farm Workers Charity in Lompoc, and I know that because I was looking at pictures and trying to describe the way he dressed and everything, and I described him wearing his white number 22 jersey. And then, as I'm working on the story, his announcement comes out. I've switched to number 2.
Right.
And I thought, oh my God, did I get that wrong? How did I get that wrong?
Right.
And I went back and looked at the pictures, and no, he's still wearing number 22.
Yeah.
So that was the last time he wore number 22 in public.
So that there you go. That's all the kit updates. I think that the Galaxy are doing what they consider the best to sort of fix all these things and go through that. It was a hugely successful release in terms of how many they sold and all that stuff. So I would imagine that they're going to do everything they can to get it. But if you have any questions on our website, I have an article that sort of updates you on all those different things. If you ordered from Adidas, by the way, because people are asking, what if you order straight from Adidas? You're not going to get any patches. Adidas doesn't have any of the patches either. Did you know that I'm pretty sure this is right? I've been talking to a lot of kit people who collect kits, and one of my good friends is a sort of a kit collector guy and knows all about this stuff. Is that the people who make the patches and the people who make the numbers are different than Adidas, right? So Adidas doesn't make the patches and doesn't make the numbers, and those number sets that you buy usually come, if you order them correctly, the number sets come, so there are specific MLS fonts, right, and specific MLS numbers, and then a lot of times you can have the option of ordering those with a patch. So you actually get the MLS patch, or you get the Honey logo on there. All that stuff has to be ordered separately and then heat transferred on. And I'm basically in the mood now, Kevin, where I'm thinking I'm just going to buy a $1,400 heat press machine and just do all these black market, heat pressings for everybody.
You make a lot of money.
Yeah. So exactly, that's my idea. So I just need somebody to gift me one of those $1,400 heat machines. So that way I don't have to pay for that. Otherwise, I won't make any money. So anyway, that was my fun thing that I'm going to do in my off time when I'm not busy doing other things. So that's what we got.
Do you know baseball teams, and I would guess other sports too, they travel, the equipment guys travel with a big like steamer trunk full of numbers and letters for names and a heat press thing. So if a guy gets traded or called up while they're on the road, they can make a whole uniform.
They can make it. Can't they just borrow the one that's at the stadium? Like, can't you?
You would think.
I mean, I would imagine that's what MLS does. They're sort of like, we'll bring the numbers with us, but just in case somebody gets, we need a different jersey, we need to print another one, we can just, go into the closet and use the heat transfer that's at Dignity Health Sports Park for the visiting team. So, hey, whatever, it works. MLB has that big money, so we're going to talk about that. Klinsmann. Jonathan Klinsmann is out at the U23 camp, Kevin, with a concussion. This is unfortunate for him because it seemed like he was certainly going to try and make a real push, one, to set himself up for the LA Galaxy starting position, but also to really continue sort of his growth in his career at the U23 U.S. men's national team as well. So that's a big loss for him.
Well, a couple of things. I actually I was on a conference call with Jurgen Klinsmann the other day, and a lot of people were asking him about what happened in Berlin, and that the classic was between Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich was coming up. People asking about them, those two teams. I actually asked him about his son and how his son wound up being a goalkeeper, because Jurgen, as we know, is one of the top strikers of his generation. And why would he allow his son to become a goalkeeper? And he said his son had a little growth spurt when he was about 13 or 14, loved playing basketball, was very good at it apparently, and played soccer as a forward, and then told his dad, you know what, I like catching the ball. I'm comfortable catching the ball. I catch the ball in basketball. That's what I want to do. I want to catch the ball. I want to jump around, roll around on the ground, and that's how he wound up becoming a goalkeeper. But he actually goes to camp when he is out of the concussion protocol and returns to camp. He will go into Galaxy camp as the most experienced MLS goalkeeper on the roster with 4 games.
Right.
We had David Bingham last year, 181 games, 10 years in MLS, gone now. We have 4 goalkeepers with the Galaxy on the roster in camp. All of them together have 4 games of MLS experience. That's all Jonathan Klinsmann.
It's an interesting conundrum because certainly they bring in Jonathan Bond, and we had Jonathan Bond on the show, who seems like he's more than willing and able to take over as the number one, and I assumed him as the number one whenever he came in. But having said that, I mean, realistically, you're still looking at somebody like Jonathan Klinsmann who can come in and challenge for that starting role. Nothing's knocked down, certainly. And the LA Galaxy have had, I would say, sort of a mixed success. And really, all I can think of whenever I think of international goalkeepers coming over from England or from anywhere else is Carlo Cudicini, and what a disaster that was for the LA Galaxy. So, I mean, there's nothing given here, Kevin, that we see that says absolutely 100% Jonathan Bond is the number one starter. I'm assuming that. I'm assuming that he trains well enough, that he does well enough, that he will get to be, that guy. But at the same time, there's no guarantee, and so for Jonathan Klinsmann even to be taken out of this, in my mind, is unfortunate for him. Is a little step backwards at a time when really he needed to be in tip-top shape, even though he wasn't even with the LA Galaxy.
Well, and the other thing, Donovan Ricketts also came from England. He's not English, but he came from England to the Galaxy. He did quite well. So you had Cudicini, not so well. Donovan Ricketts did well. So it's a mixed bag. But Jonathan Bond, in his interview with the Athletic, said, "I am the number one. I'm going there to be number one."
Right.
And then he started to, in the course of the interview, you can see how he started to walk that back and say, "Oh, well, there's a lot of great goalkeepers there, and I just say that because I'm confident." Now, I think he comes in, I don't want to say cocky, but yeah, he comes in confident. He thinks that he came from a English Premier League team, which he did. He didn't come to MLS to sit on the bench. And really, when you talk about Jonathan Klinsmann having 4 games of experience, he played last year at the end of the season. I don't think that gives him a leg up over Jonathan Bond at all. But the thing I find interesting is goalkeeper is a position of experience. It's a position of wisdom. Older players, sort of the guys that have been around the block a few times. The Galaxy don't have that in MLS, and I think that could possibly be an issue. They talked last year about how Guillermo came in and didn't have MLS experience and wasn't aware, even though he played here, the travel, the scheduling, all these things kind of threw him for a loop a little bit, and it was difficult for him and some of the players that came over at first, Pipo and some of the other players that came over from overseas. That's the kind of stuff that Bond and Klinsmann still are going to have to get used to. The travel, we're going back to traveling again this season. Presumably. So there's going to be trips to New York and back east and Miami and all those things that we didn't have last year. I'm not saying a goalkeeper at 27 like Jonathan Bond can't, fly 3,000 miles and play a game. I'm just saying he's not used to that. It's something that he is going to have to get used to. And there's no one on this roster that can talk him through that as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the fact is that Kevin Hartman is going to be their goalkeeping coach, so there is some experience, certainly some experience there from Hartman. But I mean, even saying that, last time Kevin Hartman played, the league was a different place as well. So, looking at all those things, it is going to be an adjustment period, and we'll see if they can sort of put everything together. I mean, it's hopeful. I think everybody's hopeful right now that the LA Galaxy have upgraded at goalkeeper. But when you look at these different things that are going on in terms of, whether or not you upgraded that position, whether or not the LA Galaxy are going to be better, whether or not, all of these things sort of start to flow together. When you try to put all those things together, I think you find that in some cases, it's more question marks than actual upgrades. I mean, there's zero chance right now you can say that Jonathan Bond is an upgrade over David Bingham. Haven't seen him play. Don't know what he's going to play like. Jonathan Klinsmann was a questionable, was he better than David Bingham, in the limited amount of time he got last year in, I think, 4 games or 3 games, and he let in 4 games. What is it, 12 goals in like 4 games? Now, again, Galaxy are the Galaxy defense, and just the way that Guillermo had him set up for a lot of this, Kevin, wasn't great, right? It wasn't exactly what everybody wanted, from the LA Galaxy defense and from everything that they were trying to do. So saying that is, have we really seen the best of Jonathan Bond and Jonathan Klinsmann? And the bottom line is, I don't think we can answer that yet. And so there's a whole bunch of question marks on the defense, on the midfield and the strikers, and certainly at goalkeeper for this LA Galaxy team going into, another season.
Well, what's really interesting is it used to be goalkeepers and defenders, but especially goalkeepers, were American players. Teams did not spend a ton of money on goalkeepers. They spent the money on strikers and attacking midfielders. So the defenders and especially goalkeepers came from the United States. When you look at recent history, though, you see teams like the Galaxy, LAFC, other teams that have had really poor experiences recently with their goalkeepers, have strengthened the defensive back line. The Galaxy signed, 3 or 4 guys this year, LAFC likewise, but they didn't change the goalkeeper. In fact, the Galaxy's last 2 goalkeepers they signed came from Europe. They weren't domestic players. The last 2 goalkeepers LAFC signed. Both came from overseas. Cisniega's Mexican and Ramirez comes from the Netherlands. So there seems to be a dearth of U.S. goalkeepers. I can't think of another team in MLS that has signed a starting goalkeeper that's a domestic player.
Right.
So there seems to be a real lack of goalkeepers, quality goalkeepers, and teams are trying to make up for that. Teams like the Galaxy are trying to make up for that by signing a bunch of defenders and just saying if the ball doesn't get through the back line, the goalkeeper never has to touch it. That's how we're going to solve this problem.
Well, I mean, it should also be pointed out that for roster purposes, and certainly in the case of Jonathan Klinsmann, he is a domestic player. He plays for the U.S. men's, the U.S. men's national team, the under-23 team. Jonathan Bond, also a domestic player in terms of their roster designations. It's just, Jonathan Bond has all of his experience overseas in the U.K.
And Klinsmann did until he came.
Yeah.
All his professional experience.
Yeah, all of his professional experience, again, was overseas. But it's interesting how they're both domestic players. And we talked, about Derek Williams and how the LA Galaxy on Thursday night, I think Larry was on. Was it Larry? Yeah, it was Larry. God, Thursday seems like it was so long ago. With Larry on, I sort of talked and wanted to highlight again that it seems that Dennis DeClosa, and certainly I'll put this in Dennis's lap, has a list of these dual nationals that can come into Major League Soccer and don't take up international slots and therefore can fit into both of those buckets. And it seems like he's already pulled 2 of those people off their list this time. I mean, the difference between the 2019 LA Galaxy, which I think at one point had 10 international players, possibly 11 international players on the roster, and right now the 2021 LA Galaxy, which currently has 4 international players, expecting a 5th to be added here shortly, is night and day in terms of how they're using the dual nationals and how they're using the international slots. And to me, this is a much more successful way of doing things in terms of using dual nationals, not spending your international slots on a whole bunch of different players and, role players and bench players and everything else, but using those slots where you need them the most, which is, in that starting lineup, in that offensive end of things for the most part. So for me, it seems like it's been, at least in theory, it's been sort of a home run with that.
Well, how are you counting Jonathan Dos Santos?
Jonathan Dos Santos currently is an international player.
But I understand he's trying to get a visa or at least a green card.
Is that still a thing? Because we talked about this, 2 years ago, Kevin, whenever we were at like an MLS media day and we were trying to figure out whether or not it was happening. He said no, he wasn't doing it. Is this now a thing again?
Well, I don't know for sure, but a couple of things have changed. One is his brother's gone.
Right.
And the other thing is he told me in the interview we did a couple of weeks ago that he loves it here and he has bought his home. He's not renting. He's bought his home and he intends to make retire, when he retires from the game, to live here. So it would seem to behoove him in a lot of different ways to at least get a green card, if not, actually apply at some point maybe for citizenship. And it's not going to hurt his status with the Mexican national team.
It doesn't hurt his status with the Mexican national team. It makes him more valuable within the league, within Major League Soccer. So it makes him more valuable to the LA Galaxy, the fact that he doesn't take up an international slot.
And here's a guy who wants to be a captain and a team leader and learn English to do that. I don't know for sure that he's applied for that green card, but everything seems to add up that would be something that he would want to do, if for no other reason to just make your point, to show that I'm committed to the Galaxy. I'm going to do this for you guys.
Well, and by the way, I don't even, and I want to make it clear, I don't even need him to say that I'm committed to the LA Galaxy and that's why I want to do it. He can say that I want to retire in LA and eventually, have that green card, and that's what I want. That's how I need to do it. Right now, let's say he lost his job with the LA Galaxy. Up to a certain point, he would not be allowed to stay in the United States past a certain time because his status as the P1 visa is tied to his employment, Kevin, and his employment as an LA Galaxy player. So he would have to find either another job within MLS in order to continue that. So, I mean, again, just for him and his lifestyle that he wants to change, it would make sense. It would help the LA Galaxy out. I mean, if you're looking down the road here, the next contract for Jonathan Dos Santos, and again, he said it, and he said it to you, and then he said it to all of us on the media call as well. He said, "This is my contract year. I'm out of contract at the end of this year." More than likely, his next contract, Kevin, is not a designated player contract. It's a targeted allocation money contract, and that may extend out for a couple of years, 2 or 3 or 4 years, even for the LA Galaxy if they want to do it. But that targeted allocation money contract and not taking up an international slot is super useful to the LA Galaxy and makes him even better to keep around if that sort of goes that way at the end of the year. We'll sort of have to see how it follows. It just helps him in so many ways within Major League Soccer.
And as you said, within his personal life. And I believe Mexico is one of those countries that recognizes dual nationals. In other words, even if he got citizenship, much less a green card, that doesn't detract from any of the rights that he has in Mexico. He can own property, he can import things, he can do all those things that he would do I believe that's the case, that he could do as a Mexican national. He could continue to do that as a green card holder. So it just, I mean, again, we're speculating.
Right.
But if he were to do that, I think it would be great for the Galaxy, and I think it'd be really good for him too.
Well, let's go on from one international player to a possibly next one. El Equipe, the French El Equipe. See, that's more Spanish. I keep wanting to say it the French way, but I always feel like no matter how I do it.
French newspaper. A
French newspaper. There you go. But the French newspaper, whenever you're really talking about one that usually gets things right, is reporting that that the LA Galaxy and Samuel Grandsir, by the way, great last name. Just that is such a wonderful last Grandsir. How are you? I feel like I want to tip my hat like they do in Ted Lasso whenever they're
Well,
next
I was just going to say, he sounds like a guy who should be on Richmond FC.
Right? Yeah. AFC Richmond. Come on, get it right, Kevin. This is our show. All right. By the way, somebody did contact us and say that they started watching it because we talk about it so much on the podcast, and that now it's theirs and their wife's favorite show. So I think it's Bixby who's in our Discord all the time. So he said that.
You're going to jump on me for AFC Richmond. Where do they play?
The
dog track.
Oh, at the dog track? Is that what it's called?
The Greyhound, yeah.
Oh, the Greyhound.
It's called the dog track.
Yeah, you got me there. Good job. All right. So anyway, French newspaper is reporting basically the Grandsir deal is done, and they pointed out 2 things that they know about the contract, which is something that we did not know. I, on this side, can basically tell you that the last I checked, it was basically done, and we were waiting an announcement. I don't know if that announcement will happen on Monday. It didn't, because it's Monday. I don't know if it'll happen on Tuesday or if it'll happen this week, but it seems to be ready to go. So whenever they want to make that announcement, they can. But here's the information that they had on the 24-year-old Frenchman, who has, according to them, signed a contract with the LA Galaxy. It will be a 3-year deal, Kevin. Now, we don't know if that's 1, 2, 3 years, or if it's 2 + 1, where we always call the +1 an option year, and usually the team has an option. The international papers usually don't get into that whenever they're talking about the deals that are signed. So it could be a straight 3-year deal. It might be a 2 + 1. However that is, we can take a look at that and say, okay, so 3-year deal, possibly a 2 + 1 with that option. However we sort of look at that and however we do it, that's what we're looking at. All right. So the 3-year deal could be that, and then there's also a free transfer. All right. So it says basically in the report that Monaco is releasing him for the rest of his contract, and it's interesting whenever you look at that, because in order for somebody to be released from a contract, in order for somebody to do that, there has to be an agreement for both of them to do that. So that means that Grandsir has to agree that Monaco can terminate the contract, and Monaco has to agree to terminate the contract. And Kevin, with his contract running basically through June of 2023, which is quite a ways out, there's a significant amount of money that was basically left on the table by Grandsir for this. So I don't know. It's a very interesting deal to say that Grandsir was okay with it and Monaco was okay with it. And with both of Monaco and Grandsir saying that the LA Galaxy probably put together a deal for Samuel Grandsir that is equal to or commensurate with what was happening in Monaco, so that way Grandsir can at least get the same amount of money, or he's getting maybe a little bit more money spread out over an extra couple of years, and he gets a chance to play. So all of those things seem interesting to me.
Well, I think one of the things the Galaxy offered him was a chance to play. He's not playing in Monaco, and they're offering him the chance to play. That had to be very attractive. At the same time, that's not going to pay the rent. Bruce Arena was very successful in getting guys like Nigel Young and Ashley Cole to come over because he told them, look, you've already made your money. How much more money do you need? It's not the same case with this guy. He hasn't made a ton of money. He's not set for life. So his contract's probably going to be worth, a lot of money. Probably not everything he would have gotten, but it's going to be worth a lot of money. Another thing, you mentioned the length of the contract with the options. Apparently, Jonathan Bond's contract is 2 years with 2 options, and that's very unusual. Standard MLS contract is 2 years and 1 option year, which is a club option, which means the player has no say for that 3rd year. So it's really, in the player's mind, it's a 2-year deal. Dennis DeClose is doing some creative things with these contracts. When you look at Jonathan Bond, he's committed to being here if the club wants him until he's 32. That's a pretty big commitment on his part. So, Dennis DeClose is doing some interesting things with the contracts, and maybe that's one of the reasons he's able to get some of these guys. That he's making a commitment to them, and in exchange, they're making a commitment back to him.
Yeah, by the way, I can confirm that once this deal is done, that Grandsir will be a TAM player, so a targeted allocation money player. He will take up an international slot as well. So a TAM player, which means that we know his salary is somewhere over the max, which is $612,500 is what the max budget charge I believe is right now, and it can go all the way up to I believe 1.5 or a little bit higher than $1.5 million, maybe as much as 1.7 in that area, and that could be the top of it. So whatever he's making is somewhere in between there. The bottom line is the Galaxy don't have to pay a transfer fee, Kevin. They don't have to do anything sort of magical in terms of getting more international slots or trading for anybody's rights. There's no discovery rights on this, from what I understand. So the LA Galaxy get this player. And can we say, Kevin, that this player is a question mark? I mean, this is a guy who has not played since the summer of the 2020 season, so the end of the 2019-2020 season last year that ended last summer, and now we've gone all the way around to 2021, and he hasn't played a game for Monaco in the 2020 to 2021 season. So there is a gamble there. It's just that at 24 years old, the Galaxy think that perhaps, in my mind, they have to be thinking that they have a diamond in the rough there, Kevin.
Well, yeah, I think they're taking a gamble on a couple of guys. I think you could say the same thing about Jonathan Bond. I mean, he's a guy that's been around and hasn't played a ton of games. He looks good. That the tapes that the Galaxy looked at, they look good. When he has played, he's played pretty well. But we don't know. He hasn't played. He certainly hasn't played every week for a long time. And the same with this guy. This guy reminds me a little bit of Romain Alessandrini. And I know it's just because he's coming from France and plays sort of a similar position. But the price is sort of the same. The idea that he had to get away from his French club with Alessandrini, there were other issues, but this guy's just certainly not getting any playing. Grandsir is just not getting any playing time, and the Alessandrini thing worked out really well. I think probably there's some people around the Galaxy wish that he had stayed even with the injury problems. So it's clearly a gamble, but I think if the gamble pays off, it's a great gamble. If not, then we know why he wasn't playing in France. It's tough to say. The Galaxy are limited by budget, like all MLS teams are. If you hit it with one of these guys, it's great. But if not, it's not like Arsenal. You haven't lost $20 million.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Kevin, hit your camera button again, and it'll refresh. That way, it comes on. Just hit it once. I'll try to fix everything while we're doing. This is the podcast and the video part of the YouTube and everything else that sort of does that. So anyway, it's really interesting on Grandsir. It's really interesting on trying to see how this goes together with all these things. So. Having said all that, that's where we sit with Grandsir. Again, we think we are expecting that the LA Galaxy make this official here in the coming days, whether it's this week or next week. I'm also told that Grandsir is not yet in the United States, still waiting on visa stuff, but that could happen. And if he's not here in the United States, Kevin, we know that means that not only does he have to get his visa, but then whenever he comes to the U.S., he has to do his quarantine as well. So there is some time, and I think it's between 7 and 10 days, because 7 days with, I think, a negative test and 10 days if you just do it without a test, or sort of the quarantine period. So there is going to be some time and some lag in all this happening once it is officially announced and things happening. I'm hopeful it's not like Yoni Gonzalez, where it seemed like it took almost half the year in order to get him in, Kevin. But there's still some things that need to happen here, it looks like, for Grandsir to officially sort of be added to the roster and in.
Yeah, we're in a different place with COVID than we were with Yanni Gonzalez. And, another thing, I know when he gets here, he's going to want to just go right out and play right away. That COVID quarantine might not be such a bad thing. He's coming all the way from Europe, maybe sleeping a couple of days, kind of get your, get adjusted to the time. It might not be a bad thing after all.
Have somebody deliver you some Randy's donuts, right? Get the full LA experience, by the way. So some good stuff. All right, so there's Grandsir. We have covered that. Let's get to the weekly schedule for the LA Galaxy. No media call scheduled for this week. I'm not surprised because it's preseason and it's like, what else are you going to ask, that you didn't ask last week? There's not too much, but Derek Williams has signed since then. There are some things that perhaps you'd want to ask about, but that media call looks like it's going to be next week. So it looks like maybe they'll be doing every 2 weeks, and it'll probably ramp up a little bit as we get closer to some of the preseason games and that type of thing. And we're going to go over that schedule here in a second. Monday, March 8th, that was today, the Galaxy were training. They're training on Tuesday as well. Wednesday, the team is off. Thursday, they'll be training in the AM. And then Friday and Saturday are listed as off-sites, Kevin. Off-sites, which are always fun. You never know where they could be. Maybe they're going to be at the beach. Maybe they're going to be down at Hermosa.
They're going on a field trip.
They're going on a field trip. Yep.
Museum.
To the museum. Yeah, they're going to the pier. They're going to the pier. I don't know where they're going, quite honestly. Maybe they're going, and I said this should happen, and if this happens, I will be a little giddy about it just because of understanding what they're trying to recreate. But I said that they should go and try to train basically where Greg Vanney trained out in front of the Rose Bowl, where they used to have to walk the field and clean up glass off the grass. And before that, I want to see that video of them doing that exact thing and then training out in front of the Rose Bowl again, because it's like the perfect sort of nostalgia tie-in. Everything should be there, and Greg Vanney should be out there explaining, back in my day, we had to walk uphill to school both ways in the snow. That should be Vanney out there talking about the glass and cleaning it off. So maybe that's where the offsite is. Maybe it's the Rose Bowl.
Probably not. But you know what? We're going to talk in a minute about the new regulations, or whatever you want to call them, protocols for opening MLS stadiums up. Maybe the Galaxy should play at the Rose Bowl until they can get everybody back, because 20% of 70,000 is a lot more than 20% of 27,000. They'd be able to make a lot more money by playing at the Rose Bowl.
You just want that because it's closer to where you live. So no,
that's true.
I veto there. I don't want to deal with the parking even when there's only 20% people there, for sure. All right. LA Galaxy preseason schedule. Buried today in the press release of the schedule was the broadcast schedule for the LA Galaxy's preseason games. Now, we told you on Thursday what all the preseason games would be the day before they came out. We'll go over it again. Saturday, March 20th, the LA Galaxy will host the San Diego Loyal. That game is at 12 p.m. Pacific time on March 20th, and it will not be broadcast. All right, at least right now, there's no plans to do it. It says NA, not available. That one's not happening, and I didn't expect it to. But of the remaining 5 games the LA Galaxy play, I think there's a good chance for all 5 of them to be televised in some form. Saturday, March 27th, the LA Galaxy, I believe, will host the New England Revolution at Dignity Health Sports Park against Bruce Arena, coming back to Manhattan Beach and Hermosa Beach. So that way he can, drink some wine and call me John Guesman again. So at 7 p.m. Pacific time, that game will be broadcast on Saturday, March 27th on Spectrum Sportsnet, Kevin. So that, I imagine that they'll even be playing that in the main stadium, being they're going to have actual real cameras and they'll use all the real camera positions. Maybe we'll actually get to go to that game and cover it. Who knows? Exciting times.
Megan Reza will not be there, however.
She will not be. She was on our show, so she told everybody. Here's the thing. They play the New England Revolution again in a closed-door scrimmage, 7 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday. So the following Wednesday, March 31st, 7 p.m. Pacific time, that game will be broadcast on LAGalaxy.com. So you will be able to watch that game as well. Then the LA Galaxy will head to Tucson. And I wanted to make sure that we had the thing that I forgot to put up last time, but they are playing the Sun Cup, the Visit Tucson Sun Cup. And this is a familiar place for the LA Galaxy who've been back there. I think this is the same place where they held the Desert Diamond Cup at one point. So we had all of that stuff to sort of talk about. But the interesting thing here is that at least one of those games, Kevin, looks like right now that it will be broadcast on LAGalaxy.com, and that is the last one, Saturday, April 10th.
But another thing about those games, spring training games now have fans. My guess is you could probably go to these games.
Due to health and let me quote from the website for right now. Due to health and safety regulations, media and limited fan attendance are soon to be determined. All right, so that is where they're at right now. But I am with you. There will be fans there. I don't know how many, but I know some people are actually planning on going, and so we'll see if that ends up happening, and you can go and actually do it. But the LA Galaxy have 3 games they're going to play there. Saturday, April 3rd against Sporting Kansas City. That's a 12 p.m. Pacific time kickoff, and Wednesday, April 7th. That's a 3 p.m. Pacific time kickoff against the Colorado Rapids. Those two, the broadcast schedule is TBD. I would imagine that all the games there will be broadcast in some form, but at least one game over the air on I shouldn't say over the air, on cable for Spectrum Sportsnet, and at least 2 games on LAGalaxy.com of the 6. So of the 6, you have 3 right now, and I think there's a good possibility that you could get 4 or 5 of those to actually do that. So,
but you know what I want to see this preseason? I want to see the Galaxy play the reigning MLS Cup champions, a little bit of a rematch against Gyasi Zardes and Perry Kitchen. You think that might be able to happen?
Let me just say that there is a good possibility there is a super secret closed door scrimmage that the LA Galaxy will be playing against the Columbus Crew, and if that happens, 1, it will not be televised, but 2, it probably won't look much like a game either. It'll probably be one of those weird 20-20-20 games where they each play 20 minutes and it's 3 different teams and blah blah blah, all that stuff. But yes, I do think that there's a good possibility of Caleb Porter and Gyasi Zardes and Perry Kitchen going up against the LA Galaxy. Is Hector Jimenez still? No, didn't Hector go down to Austin? I think he went down to Austin. But anyway, yes.
So I wonder if they do the 20-20-20, let's use Gyasi at right back for one of those
just to taunt the Galaxy. I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. Having covered that time in LA Galaxy history with Siggy Schmidt moving Gyasi Zardes to right back, I often sit there and shake my head at that and say, yeah, I mean, I get why they did it. And listen, Gyasi Zardes needed a change of scenery. That was 100% absolutely sure that was going to happen, that he needed that in order to be successful. So I'm not sure he could have resurrected his career with the LA Galaxy, even if they had the best coach. Actually, that's not true. Probably if they had the best coach. Let's get to the MLS schedule. And you've been sort of paying attention. One of the big hiccups that we've been seeing, Kevin, is that we didn't know whether or not or where the Canadian teams would be playing. And at least so far, we have 2 of those questions answered.
Yeah, we know that Toronto is going to play. They're going to be based in Orlando, actually placed just outside of Orlando. They're going to be at a resort that has soccer fields right behind the hotel. So they're going to be. That means they don't have to share a training facility with Orlando or Orlando City. So they're going to be training there. They're going to play some games in Orlando City Stadium. They're going to play some games in Tampa. So Toronto now is going to be based in Orlando. We just found out today, Monday, that Montreal is going to go to Fort Lauderdale. They will apparently use Inter Miami's training facility and maybe some other facility there, perhaps FIU. I know a lot of the U.S. national team has used FIU before, and they will play their games apparently in Fort Lauderdale as well. Why are they? We don't know where Vancouver is going to go, but this is one of the things that's been holding the MLS schedule up. There has been a ban on non-essential cross-border traffic between the U.S. and Canada since last March. And there was the Biden administration has put a task force together to work with the Canadians on solving this issue. They have not done that yet. They've extended the ban to the end of this month. And so the 2 Canadian teams said, we can't wait any longer. They've moved down here. We don't know where Vancouver's going to go. They went to Portland last year. But now that MLS has some clarity that it doesn't look like those Canadian teams are going to start the season in Canada, I think we should see the schedules come out pretty soon. And Bob Bradley talked at LAFC's media availability today about how he expects it to be closer to a real MLS schedule. He doesn't anticipate that it's going to be a full regional schedule like it was last year. It may start out that way, but he expects to see cross-country flights fairly soon into this MLS season. And so that would affect the Galaxy as well. But I think we're going to see a schedule now real soon now that we know the Canadian teams will start their season in the U.S.
Yeah, it seems to be leaning that way for sure. But the big news, obviously, here in Southern California is that when the LA Galaxy return on April 17th, we don't know where that will be, if it'll be at home or if it'll be away, Kevin. But there is a chance that fans could be at the stadium at Dignity Health Sports Park.
Well, not just a chance. It will happen, according to Governor Gavin Newsom. On April 1st, he has cleared amusement parks and outdoor sports arenas. You're not going to see a Laker game, a Clipper game, a Kings game this year, probably. But they have cleared outdoor stadiums to welcome in fans, and it goes based on the tier. There are 4 tiers. As people, if you don't know this, you should know this. There are 4 tiers based on the coronavirus activity in your county. There's the purple tier. That's the most restrictive, the highest concentration of coronavirus activity. So there's purple, red is the next one, orange, and yellow. Yellow is basically everything's back to normal. LA County and Orange County right now, they are both in the purple tier, the most restrictive tier. Even if they don't come out of the purple tier, the Galaxy will be able to have 100 fans at their first game. But we don't know when that is. The season opens April 17th. We don't know if the Galaxy will be home or away. But the first game, Gavin Newsom says maximum 100 fans can come, even if you're in the purple tier. We expect LA County to be in the red tier by early April, certainly by mid-April when the Galaxy would presumably play their first game. The red tier is a little bit more forgiving, 20% capacity in the stadium. For a stadium like Dignity Health Sports Park, that means I think around 5,400 people can come. There are certain restrictions. You have to live in the area. There's restrictions on the kind of concessions that can be sold, food and those kind of things. You have to wear a mask, of course. That, by the way, will be strictly enforced. I've heard of fans being ejected in other states from sporting events for not wearing a mask. So you will need to wear a mask. There'll be social distancing. So about 5,400 people if we're in the red tier. If it goes to the orange tier, the next one up, 33%. And you see it'll grow. Yellow tier will be 67%. So there will be fans that first game. We don't know, will it be 100 or will it be 5,400 or maybe even 10,000 or near 10,000 if they go to the yellow tier, the orange tier. But there will be fans at that first game. There'll be certain restrictions. The Galaxy put out an announcement. They really don't know how they're going to do this. They have an idea. It's going to be season ticket holders. I don't know how they determine first come, first serve, whether it's if you've been a season ticket holder the longest, you get the first chance. Presumably, once they cycle through all the season ticket members and find out how many people want tickets, if there are some tickets left over, my guess would be those would go on sale to the general public. I don't know that. The Galaxy are scrambling a little bit. I think all MLS teams are, all sports teams in the state. The Galaxy have said privately that they did not expect to have fans back in the stadium until June.
Right.
And Gavin Newsom's announcement came kind of suddenly at the end of last week. What I was told is the MLS teams were allowing the Major League Baseball teams. There's 5 Major League Baseball teams, as you know, in California. They're the ones with the big money lobbyists and the lawyers and all that. They were riding Gavin Newsom's office pretty hard to try to get this stuff open for opening day, which is April 3rd. The MLS teams were just basically following behind baseball saying, we too, we would like to do that as well. If you're going to do it for them, can you do it for us? Our stadiums are smaller. Didn't get involved a lot with the lobbying because they didn't have the clout the Major League Baseball teams did. But once baseball succeeded, MLS was able to ride in behind them. And then we'll see college teams, college soccer, college baseball, they'll be allowed to have fans back based on the capacity of their stadiums as well.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I will tell this. I was talking with the Galaxy today. They were having discussions in the weeks prior to this about the fans coming back. So that was an interesting sort of part. But like you said, nobody expected to have it happen so quickly and so suddenly. So yeah, it's all of a sudden hurry up and catch up because you're already behind. So with Newsom making that announcement, that's sort of where the Galaxy have landed on that one. So very interesting in terms of that.
Let me throw this out there, and I don't expect you to have an answer. I don't know that anybody has an answer, but I just find it so interesting. When everything shut down on March 12th, of last year. That was, again, March 8th today, the day we're recording. This is the 1-year anniversary of the last soccer match, but the last sporting event with fans was March 11th. It was a Kings game. Everything shut down on March 12th. On March 12th, 1,300 Americans had tested positive for the virus and 38 people had died. And the sky was falling. We had to shut it down. And I think that was correct. We had to take this virus seriously. And people were freaked out. And we shut soccer down for 4 months and every other sport and restaurants closed and all that. Now we're going to open up. Now we've been given the green light to open up. Where are we now with the infection? Well, infections are at 29.7 million. 537,976 Americans had died as of Monday morning from the coronavirus. Globally, it's 2.6 million people have died, and 39 times that number have been infected. And now all of a sudden it's safe to go back. I mean, I get it. We have to go back to normal at some point, and with the Biden administration promising to vaccinate every adult who wants a vaccine by late May, probably a good idea to start cranking it up and getting back to normal. But I just can't get beyond the fact that 39 people had died on March 12th, and we had to shut everything down. And now we're talking 537,000 Americans have died, and we're going to open back up again.
Well, think of how much more unknown everything was, and that's really where the difference is, right? You didn't know how it's going to be. Listen, I'm not saying that it hasn't greatly exceeded what perhaps people thought could be possible in terms of the death count, in terms of all of the things that happened, but we also are pretty comfortable with understanding what those measures are to stay safe as well. And certainly we understand that being outside is better than being inside. We know that wearing a mask is better than no mask. We have all these things that we've sort of taken a look at, Kevin, and sort of understood that, gives us, I think, a little more comfort in terms of how we interact and how we do things. And then certainly the amount of people who are getting vaccinated every day is far outpacing right now the number of positive cases that are showing up. So if you add all those things together, you can see that there is more light than darkness here at the end of the tunnel. Although, we're by no means are we out of anything. And in fact, they're talking about possible surges because of spring break coming up and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we're getting closer. I have said after I went and covered a game that I felt totally safe. And, granted, there were like 30 of us in a stadium that holds 25,000 plus people. So I understand that. I would be fine with 5,100 people in that stadium. And I would have probably zero issues with it. And I don't consider it a very high risk situation. And, I'll be there covering, and I haven't been vaccinated yet. So, hopefully that'll happen here shortly. And I can have even more sort of assurance that everything will be fine. But I think we're going to be wearing masks and sort of doing this reduced capacity thing here for a considerable little stretch as we ramp through the summer and hopefully get a hold of everything before the fall.
If they had 5,100 people at a Chivas USA game, they would have thought, hey, what was there a giveaway? How come so many people are here?
Yes.
But I went to a restaurant. My wife and I went to a restaurant last night. We ate outdoors, of course. We wore masks. We sat in the corner. I felt safe. I did the social distancing. I didn't sit near anybody. We sat in the corner. It was outdoors. The waitress had a mask on the whole time. We wear a mask all the time. I'm not saying that we need to continue to be frightened about it. You're right. We didn't know anything then. We know a lot more now. I will tell you that I feel a lot better when I see people out in the street, out and about, that are wearing masks, that are acknowledging the social distancing, that don't come up and try to shake hands or all those kind of things. Maybe those are the things that we're learning, but I definitely do feel like it's not 100% safe yet, but we need to start transitioning and getting back. It's just like when you if you know anybody that's broken a foot lately,
or 2 feet, or two. Did you ever tell everybody you broke the other foot either? By the way, I know you don't want to tell everybody, but I figured I'd just bring it up.
Well, before we finish the story, we have to transition. Just like when you break a leg, you need to start moving the muscles and getting them going again. I think we're kind of at that stage with coronavirus. But yes, I am completely out of functioning feet. I did break the first foot that was in a tragic jogging accident.
Yes,
and
tragic.
Then I broke the other foot with the crutch.
Right.
It was a toe on that foot. I wish I could say that I was running into a burning house to save orphans, but I was not. It was a jogging accident followed by a crutch accident.
I'm gonna make you feel better, and I really don't want to make you feel better. I really want you to live in this whole I broke 2 feet, and your doctor told you that doesn't really happen all that often, and stuff like that. I will say, however, that my wife did the same thing whenever she was younger. So she broke one foot, and then whenever she was on crutches, I think she fell down like getting in and out of the bus and broke the other foot, leg.
The doctor did say that is actually very common, that you break a foot and then you break a hand because you trip or you fall and whatever. So, but 2 feet is pretty rare. I got the hat trick.
You got the hat trick. You had two things happen and you got the hat trick. The hat trick comes in threes. So what else did you break? A finger, a brain cell, something for sure.
Well, okay, I got a brace, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there you go.
And I'm wearing a brace too, so.
Very, very timely. All right, let's get to the last sort of one is, and I think that maybe we talked about this and maybe we didn't, but somebody on the Discord was asking questions about Mauricio Cienfuegos. Somebody was asking why there wasn't any pictures of Mauricio Cienfuegos with the new community kit on either, because you would think that if you're doing a throwback, you sort of want, Cien to meld the new with the old together, that you'd want it. Somebody asked about Mauricio Cienfuegos. I just asked a question whether or not he left the club or not, and the answer is yes, he did leave the club apparently last year. I don't remember talking about it. I asked some people if they remember hearing about it, and they said no. So I just want to get it back out there that Mauricio Cienfuegos is no longer with the LA Galaxy. He was helping coach in the academy system and sort of helping those young players out as they develop their striking skills. So, but however that is, I don't know all the issues. I just wanted to put it out there so that way you can't say that I didn't talk about it. Maybe I talked about it way back when and I don't remember, but it was a surprise to me whenever I found out. So I'm thinking that we didn't talk about it, if indeed it was ever out there. But I just wanted to point that out, and if we can, we'll find out more information. But that's all the information I have right now, is that he's no longer with the club.
And we don't know why, and nor do we know really where he went.
There was an announcement for like another club team, I think in Southern California, that said that Mauricio Cienfuegos was coming to be the coach or the assistant coach or something like that to this other academy. And with MLS Next coming on, that doesn't surprise me either. So maybe there's some whole tie-in to everything as it goes. But regardless, he's not with the LA Galaxy anymore, and so we'll figure out some more information. Maybe that'll be one of those things that we update you over the next like 2 months as we find little bits and pieces of information on that. Let's get to Cristian Pavon, because I know we're just about at an hour now. So I want to press through the last 5 or 6 minutes talking about Cristian Pavon, and there is a Cristian Pavon update. We haven't had one in a while, and I was starting to think that maybe things would just sort of get normal again, and that charges or that any supposed charges would get dismissed. That the LA Galaxy's continued pursuit would be that, and it would be fine, and everything would be good. That's not what happened. And today there were a bunch of reports coming out of Argentina about Cristian Pavon, and basically that he was formally charged. And we use that in the American judicial system sense, and it could mean something different in the Argentine criminal system. And so understand that we're trying to make the comparisons between what's happening here in the U.S. and sort of how that would relate to things in Argentina. I'm going to tell you right now, John Rojas, of course, we talk about him all the time, especially whenever we're talking about Argentina and about Cristian Pavon, has been doing a great job keeping track of this. And so he's been contacting Cristian Pavon's lawyers and has been putting out some different things. So here's what we know right now. Cristian Pavon was charged, formally charged, and will have a day in court on March 23rd. That's basically to answer the charges against him and to give his statement, probably like if you would think of it as a deposition or something under oath to the court. He's going to tell his side of the story with it. When we say he's been charged with a crime, we shouldn't view that sort of in the same sphere as we look at in the United States, where, you're accused and then you're charged and then you're tried, and that's sort of how this goes. And so while the accusations against him include, the sexual assault and actually sort of called out as rape charges against him in Argentina, that this woman has levied against him, is a serious step towards getting this to trial and basically talking to the judges, and for somebody to effectively rule on this case eventually of whether or not there's merit for it to even continue. And that's sort of where we're at right now. It's preliminary stages, Kevin, where they're going to go in, they're each going to tell their sides of the story, and then the judge is going to sort of figure out whether or not this case, there's something to this case, and it moves forward, or the prosecutor's office is going to move this forward. So that's where we sit right now.
As I understand it, that what you're trying to explain the situation, I think he's been sort of named or accused, but not formally charged. Maybe that would be one way to say it, that there hasn't been the decision necessarily by the court to bring this case forward. I believe right now it is it a civil, or she has a personal lawyer? It's not a civil case at this point, is it?
It seems like that in Argentina, that those things, that she has a lawyer and that he has a lawyer, and that I believe that the prosecutor's office is the one who charged, and the prosecutor does the investigation, and also does the charges and sort of brings this to the court. But it's the prosecutor who sort of figures out, I think, fact and fiction. This is way out of my league in terms of this stuff, trying to figure out exactly how it works. But the bottom line is that Pavon's lawyers before this were saying, listen, he hasn't been formally charged in this. He has no travel restrictions. And so everything, this is going the way that we thought it would go. And, there's nothing to this, and as a defense attorney would put into for their client. Now, John Rojas went out and got another statement from the lawyers. The lawyers said, and this is from John Rojas's Twitter account, and what he said, what was announced today is technically what we need in order to be able to exercise properly his, as in Cristian Pavon, his right of defense with respect to constitutional guarantees, as well as to contest the accusations against him and offer all the proof of defense. So it's Pavon's lawyers right now, Kevin, trying to spin this and saying this is what we wanted, that we want to get this out in front of a judge. We want to get this out in front of we want to be able to tell our side of the story. We want somebody to rule on this, that way it can go away, because we're confident that we don't have any issues with that. That's the spin they're trying to put on it. And I made that same argument at one point before I had even heard this. Having said that, this still feels like a very positive spin from the legal side, from Cristian Pavon's lawyers on this.
Yeah, it feels to me like an escalation from the accuser that she's pushing for this thing to go forward. And Pavon's attorneys, as I understand it, have kept saying at every step that, no, there's nothing here, there's nothing here. At one point, it looked like the judge was going to clear him to travel. And then when the judge said no, Pavon's lawyer said, well, that's fine, we're going to stay here and fight this. So it does seem as if it's escalating. It does seem as if they're trying to spin it and put a sort of a good, happy face on things if they can. But to cut to the chase, where does this leave the Galaxy? Well, I think that they've always had Plan B, and I think they're getting ready to execute Plan B. I think they're probably still talking to Pavon and his agents, and we still don't know if Boca Juniors has signed off on a permanent deal yet. All that stuff is up in the air. This certainly clouds that, and we've talked about this a lot, and I think we're still both of the agreement that Cristian Pavon deserves his day in court, but this is a really, really dicey situation for the Galaxy. If they get this wrong, it could hurt more than just their record next season. It could hurt the reputation of the club going forward.
Yeah, it's not a very podcasty thing to say, but it was mentioned in the Discord, and it was so accurate that I feel like it should be repeated, is that you don't have to pick a side here. You don't have to be on the side of Cristian Pavon. You don't have to be on the side of his accuser. You can sit there and wait for this to play out, and and let the chips fall. Now, the LA Galaxy, I believe, don't have that leeway in a lot of ways, because every time that Cristian Pavon's name is being mentioned in this, the LA Galaxy are being mentioned. Every time there is a news article about Cristian Pavon and the sexual assault allegations, there is a news that that the LA Galaxy are being mentioned. So the Galaxy's name, whether they are interested in Cristian Pavon anymore or not, which last count they were, are being mentioned in all of this stuff. And so, listen, if you're Cristian Pavon and you're innocent, you want this to go to trial as quickly as possible. You want this to be over with, so that way you can be cleared, so that way you can go on with your life. But at the same time, if you're the LA Galaxy, again, we've talked about this. I've always said that I thought it was real dicey and a dangerous situation for the Galaxy to sort of to associate themselves with Cristian Pavon while all of this is going on. So,
well, the thing you said from the Discord is true. We can wait till this all plays out. But Dennis DeClosa maybe doesn't have that luxury. Put yourself in his position for a second. We can't put the charges away, but let's just try. I'm not trying to minimize the charges or anything. Dennis DeClosa may have to make a decision. Boca may come to him and say, do you want the guy? You got to make up your mind now before the case is resolved. If Dennis says no, he's passing up on his leading scorer, his leading assist guy, a World Cup striker from Argentina. He's passing up on that.
Right.
And if Pavon is totally acquitted and everything goes away, Dennis missed that opportunity. But if Dennis says, you know what, I believe the lawyers, I don't think anything happened. I think that everything's going to be resolved in court. I'm going to pay that guy. I'm going to give him whatever $10 million right now. Let's move forward. And then turns out the charges are true, and Cristian Pavon is sentenced. Maybe he doesn't go to prison. Maybe he's allowed to come out on parole and play. Then what the Galaxy do? They got to pay him the $10 million. They can't play him. They can't bring him here. So Dennis DeClosa is in a real tough situation. He probably has to make a decision before this is resolved. You certainly would want to err on the side of caution. I would think it'd be much better probably to pass up on a World Cup striker than it would be to hire a guy, who's found guilty of sexual assault or worse. But it's a tough situation. It's hard. I don't want to feel sorry for Dennis. There's a lot more big fish to fry in this whole case, but it's just, I guess the point is it's not clear cut at this point and may not be for a while.
Yeah, it's not. A reminder, the MLS transfer window does not open until March 10th, so we still have a couple days before it even opens. It does not close until June 1st. There's plenty of time in there. It's about whether or not the LA Galaxy. I mean, listen, the argument might be made that if you can afford to wait to summer to fill the DP slot for the LA Galaxy, if you think that they're not, a game changing. Again, Greg Vanney thinks 6 to 8 more players. They basically signed one, and maybe another one comes in with Grand Sur. So that's 4 to 6 more players the LA Galaxy are expected. Pavon may have been one of those, but if you can make it with 7 players instead of 8 players, and you make it to summer, not only do you have a chance to pick up Cristian Pavon again in the summer transfer window, which you would assume that everything is sort of played out by then, although we've heard cases like this can take years to prosecute, to try, and to get everything done. But in the summertime, you also have some guys who are coming off of their European and UK seasons. So you have a chance to sort of reload with another designated player there. The only problem is the Galaxy sort of lose that, in the meantime. And with the U22 rule coming into play as well, Kevin, maybe you don't sign a third designated player, so that way you can get 3 players at the under 22 rate. So that's another strategy issue as well that you could possibly play out. If you sign a third designated player, you can get 1 under 22 guy. If you only have 2, and maybe one of them's a young DP, or you have an open designated player spot, you can get up to 3 under 22, no acquisition fees on transfers, and a very low salary cap. So listen, there's a lot of different ways to sort of do this and be patient. I think being patient in this year probably pays off more than having to make decisions right now.
That whole U22 thing, it's just like the jersey launch. I'm
just
totally
right over
confused.
your head.
But another thing to take in consideration is the season's starting 6 weeks later than normal. So there isn't that pressure to get things done now, because you're going to get into the summer at 12 or 15, we don't see the schedule yet, but presumably getting the summer at 12 or 15 games, not halfway through your season.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's throwing everybody's calendar off. It's like your body clock is telling you that MLS should be starting here pretty soon, and you're like, no, it's not. It's still starting later. So everybody can freak out a little bit later. So April 17th, LA Galaxy getting ready to really start some of those preseason games, going through training, all that stuff. There should be a media call next week. We'll see if any of this other stuff sort of kicks off and the LA Galaxy can get a few more signings by the wayside. FYI, Victor Vasquez has been linked with the LA Galaxy. Again, 34-year-old Victor Vasquez, who's, I think, playing somewhere in the Middle East. This is a different type of player than Giovinco. I just want to throw that out there. So you can't say, the argument there when I told you that the LA Galaxy weren't interested in Giovinco was that he was 34 years old and that he was coming, to play, and perhaps his best days were behind him, but that would be a designated player sort of guy there. Victor Vasquez, an attacking midfielder, central attacking midfielder. Maybe if you put him with Sasha Kljestan, that gets you one whole person in terms of the ability to play every single minute of every single game between those two guys. Maybe it's not horrible. Maybe that's what the LA Galaxy want. Maybe they want some veteran leadership, that type of thing. I have not heard anything or been able to verify anything on Victor Vasquez. So as a matter of fact, somebody in the Discord just hit him up on Instagram and said, hey, are you coming to the Galaxy? He's like, I haven't heard anything yet. So I don't yet, maybe means there's something, but I wouldn't fall into that category yet.
By the way, you did not come with your homework assignment. Your homework assignment, if you remember, was to pick the 16th outfield players who will make the U.S. Women's Olympic roster.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to give you another assignment, but you have to answer now. You mentioned next week's media conference. Who do you think the star player will be? You think Chicharito finally
yes.
makes a season debut?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm feeling it. Chicharito. By the way, I am pressing rather hard on the LA Galaxy to get Chicharito on this podcast. I feel like if he's doing the sort of, public PR redemption tour that he wants to do, which he's doing on Instagram, then being on our show can't be any worse than Kevin being on the show all the time. So, You know,
Probably a lot better.
probably a lot better, definitely better. We'll get better ratings for sure.
You know why? He has 2 functioning feet too, which is always a big help.
I don't know. After last year, somebody might argue with that. So we'll see. We'll see. He's looking like he's in really good shape. But it would be interesting to have him on and talk for 10 or 15 minutes with him. So we'll keep pushing on that. Also trying to get Derek Williams on the show. That's another one we're pressing to get because we want to talk to Derek. Certainly want to hit up on that Robbie Keane angle and how much he talked to Robbie about coming to the LA Galaxy and everything else. It's just a fun sort of thing to say that, you know, Derek Williams is following in the footsteps of Robbie Keane whenever you think about Irish national team player and coming over to the LA Galaxy, but that dual citizenship, certainly with his mom being American, or excuse me, his mom was Irish, his dad was American, is an interesting little tidbit as well. Same sort of thing with Jonathan Bond. So a lot of fun stuff. Hopefully we'll get some of that done and across the line here pretty soon.
So is Jonathan Bond then following in the footsteps of David Beckham by your philosophy there?
Maybe. I don't know. That one seems like more of a stretch than Derek Williams does to Robbie Keane. But hey, you know, whatever gets people to listen, I'm fine with it. All right, Kevin, is there anything else you want to talk about, or can we be done?
We got to get Williams next week because it'll be the pod will go up the day before St. Patrick's Day.
And that's definitely okay. I will work on it. I will effort behind the scenes, as they say. Effort behind the scenes. All right. If you're looking for Mr. Kevin Baxter on Twitter, it's at KBaxter11. And please head on over to the LATimes.com. All of his writing right there. You can find it, LATimes.com. He writes about soccer. Follow him, U.S. Women's National Team, U.S. Men's National Team, the other team in Los Angeles. You can find it all there, LATimes.com. All right, if you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornertogalaxy.com where you can find all of our articles, all of our podcasts, all the updates on the community kit is there as well. All right, for Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You are listening to Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.